Okay, great. Anyway, thanks for having us here. My presentation is pretty short. This is just to cover updates from the past year from the Fish and Wildlife Service, and Jenna will be giving a more detailed presentation on one of those topics following mine. I'm not sure if I'm going first because you're really anxious to hear what I have to say, or you just want to, kind of get it over with. But this past year, we have been quite busy. We completed 7 5-year reviews for 7 different species, which is a lot. There's been a big push in the agency to get caught up with 5-year reviews. So we completed one for Jones cyclodenia, McGuire primrose, Holmgren's milkvetch, Shivowitz milkvetch, Welch's milkweed, Barnaby reed mustard, and Kodachrome bladderpod. And upcoming next year in 2022, we have 3 planned. The dwarf bear poppy, sorry, I forgot the scientific names on this slide, Wright's fishhook cactus, and Ute's ladies tresses. And recovery plan work. We have all been waiting for a while for Perriette cactus and Uinta Basin hookless cactus draft recovery plan to be published. It should be published here this spring. It is in review by our regional directors. And that draft will be published, and then it'll be finalized this fiscal year. Kodachrome bladderpod recovery plan work will start on that, likely with a species status assessment starting this year. That completion date has been pushed back to fiscal year 23. And that is in part to allow us to do some additional survey and genetic work that we would like to have prior to making that plan. Winkler cactus, Pedicactus winkleri is, and San Rafael cactus are up for fiscal year 24. And just a reminder, our fiscal year does end at the end of September, not the end of the calendar year. Something to note is that we do have a new process for noticing our recovery plans. Previously, they were always posted in the Federal Register. This creates a lot more work and delays the publication quite a bit to do it in the Federal Register. So a new website has been created, a new portal for posting the draft recovery plans. And then the final ones will, of course, be on our species page in ECOS. I was going to include a link to this page, but it is currently not working because they are working on some website updates and transferring of information. But as soon as that is available, especially for the cactus, which will be upcoming first, I will make sure to send that information out to UNPS and any concerned stakeholders. But just be aware that it's not going to be in the Federal Register anymore. Okay, update on listings. As many of you know, the White River penstemon and Graham's penstemon was found to be not warranted for listing. Yes, and that was published in January of 2022. So our proposal to list was withdrawn, and that is a subject that Jenna will be discussing more right after me. And then upcoming listing decisions that we have to make are for Cisco milkvetch, Isely's milkvetch, and Stage Station milkvetch. And that will be in this fiscal year 2022. And we are completing a species status assessment process for those 3 milkvetch species, which several people in the audience have provided review on. So thank you very much for that. We will be having a a recommendation team meeting for those species, which is an internal meeting to review the information and make a listing recommendation at the end of March. And then Joshua Tree, just kind of a reminder, since that does come into Utah a bit, though we are not the lead office for this species. That the court remanded that decision to not list. So it was considered a significant portion of the range was considered to be arbitrary and capricious. And that remand date is January 30th of 2023. And fiscal year 26 is a decision date for the Mojave poppy bee. It's not a plant, but is of interest to some of our plants down in southern Utah. Okay, Ute ladies tresses. Just an update on this species. A species status assessment has been a huge lift that was completed by Lark, Willey in our office, and that is out for peer and partner review right now. And again, a lot of people in the audience right now are completing that review, which concludes on March 7th, and then we'll take those comments and address those in the SSA. This is actually news a little bit from last year, but just want to remind people to make sure that the information is out there for anyone who missed it, that there is a new potential habitat polygon available on our species profile page on ECOS. And here's the link to that page. This is a range-wide potential habitat polygon. It's based on a modeling effort. Previously, this our potential habitat was based on the county level here in Utah. So this is an improvement from the county level, but modeling for the species is quite difficult and complicated. So we do understand that it needs to be revised based on survey data and suitable habitat information. There are some areas of the state where it does over predict, but just remember this is a potential habitat polygon and that suitable habitat is always verified on the ground. And this map here is just an example of the potential habitat in the Uinta Basin. Okay, and then an update on the 3 milkvetch species, Cisco, Isely, and Stage Station milkvetch. Work ongoing with those. We recently received, so we are working on a species status assessment, which, as I mentioned, is nearing completion here in the next month. And we were able to incorporate new genetic information with that species status assessment. And that genetics did indicate that the 3 species are in fact distinct species. That was a bit of a question based on morphology. And so we wanted to confirm that. Our petition to list was only for Cisco and Isely's milkvetch, and Stage Station was not considered a separate species in that petition, but based on this information, we are moving forward, treating them as 3 distinct species. As part of this process, we are pursuing a conservation agreement and strategy for all 3 species. This is in progress and is very much a draft agreement right now, but we're making some quick progress on it. And we have 6 parties involved, both federal and state parties involved in this conservation agreement, which again, hopefully will be finalized in the next month or 2. And as I mentioned, our recommendation team meeting for listing decision, which is internal, is occurring in late March. And continuing with conservation agreements, an update on the Grams and White River Pinsaman Conservation Agreement. Our focus has been on completing monitoring program, the range-wide monitoring program that's been ongoing, adding new monitoring sites and continuing monitoring of ones that have been installed over the last year or two. Our 2021 annual report should be out by the end of March. We've got a lot of things coming up at the end of March. And any information on the annual reports and the agreement itself can be found on the website on your screen, which is hosted by Sitla. An update on Goose Creek Milkvetch. The population viability analysis is nearing completion and a genetic study is still ongoing for that species. Kodachrome bladderpod, and just want to mention a new partnership, which we hope will come to fruition with Southern Utah University. Will be helping us out with some survey and pollinator investigations down at the Deer Springs Point population. And we also have USGS on board to help us with a genetic analysis of the 3 populations and similar species that are nearby. That was actually supposed to start in 2021, but due to the drought, there was not enough material to complete collections. So we are hoping for some rains so that they can do those collections in 2022. And this slide is not really updated much from last year, but we are continuing our support and work for well pad restoration research in the Uinta Basin. And the purpose is to explore basic practices for restoration of well pads in the Uinta Basin. We are partnering with USGS, BLM, and private industry and researchers on this project. I think we are in the 4th or 5th year of this project. The sites are scattered across the Uinta Basin over a variety of soil and vegetation types. And we have one in some core 1 cactus habitat, which is very exciting because it does look like the well pad was probably installed where there was occupied habitat for sclerocactus. So working on that restoration project is very exciting to us. 2 more sites were installed this year, and some additional ones will be added in fall of this year. And I think those are our last ones to install. Not much new with pollinators, but we are continuing our work with monarch butterfly, which is a candidate species. Warranted but precluded was the decision on that. We're still supporting conferencing with this species and research on this species here in Utah. The listing decision for the Great Basin silver butterfly and western bumblebee. They both have positive 90-day findings, and listing decisions are expected in 2022 and 2023. And then just a note for Utah Field Office efforts. Again, we are supporting state monarch conservation efforts and coordinating with any projects that may have impacts to monarch or other pollinator species. And I realize I'm running out of time quickly, so I'm just going to say thank you and open it up to any questions.